Hi guys, so I want to ask a few questions about computer science. So only keep watching this video if you are somewhat knowledgeable in CS and or file management, because it is almost 3 a.m. when I'm recording this right now, so I should be going to bed. But I may have just lost 90% of my files, but it isn't catastrophic because I could just download them from Backblaze again since I have some of them backed up there. But it feels like this is happening to me more often than most, where my files get corrupted maybe twice a month, and I keep having to go to Backblaze to get them recovered. So I want to know like what I'm doing wrong. Okay, so here's the gist of it. Right now I'm running WinDirStat, which is a program that lets you kind of visually graph out what's taking up file space on your hard drive, or in my case, an SSD. And this one, which I called Archivy, the gist of it, or I guess the summary, is that there are 3.7 million files, as you can see right here, which sounds like a lot, but there used to be more. There used to be 4.9 million. And the reason why this number is so high is because I use this thing called processing, which I'm sure a lot of you know. It's like this program that lets you create sort of art and or geometric shapes with Java and then output that to images. And starting in 2011, I wanted to create a lot of cool videos and visualizations using processing, drawing rectangles in the form of bar graphs or like, things like this Abacaba video, the most popular memes month by month. Every single frame here is basically exported as an image in processing. And so, if I make a 10-minute video, that's 60 frames per second. Well, 10 times 60 times 60 is 36,000 images. So, if I make enough of these sorts of videos, it easily racks up to 4 million images. So, over the years, I've been using Backblaze to sort of track my computer and back things up. But I sort of realized recently that I think the fact that the number of files is so large is making it hard for Backblaze to do its job. Because I do think 2.1 terabytes is not huge. And, Backblaze has many other clients, very like personal people, not like huge businesses who have files on the size of 2.1 terabytes. But maybe it's just like a single big video file that's hours long, not millions and millions of files. So what happened recently is I wrote this program. I don't know if I can open it. Well, I wrote this program. It's called compress.py, and it's in this folder. It's a Python script that will search my entire hard drive for image sequences. Basically, a sequence of image files that all have the same like string and then a number at the end. And then if it detects that there's 100 or more of them, it'll prompt the user in a GUI, in a user interface, like, is this an image sequence you would like to compress into an MP4? Check yes if yes. And if you say yes, it will use FFmpeg to convert those images into an MP4, and then it will delete all the original images. So that has been very helpful because there are certain folders in here, like I can show you some of them right now, uh, that have, maybe 20,000 images. And then after I run that Python script, it'll have one video file that's also smaller in file size because of interframe compression. So if I go in here, actually, I think this will work. So I go to processing on my computer. This is the hard drive from the computer I used during college. It was a laptop. And if I go to say, uh, Rubik's Record Step 3, this was a, video I made, or a series of videos I made for my speed cubing channel, where I would track the history of the fastest Rubik's Cube solve records year by year, day by day. So if I go to like 5 by 5 images, you can see it starts on image 1000.png, and then it goes up to like 1004.png, 1018, like, and then there's just thousands and thousands of these images, all the way down to image 14,568. And every single one of these is one frame out of a 60 frame per second video that like shows the fastest, 5 by 5 world record solves on, say, like April 13th, but of course it goes through time. So I think, starting a couple days ago, I got this compress.py script working. I tested on a whole bunch of like dummy tests, like maybe image sequences of 100, 1000 frames to see if it worked, and it did. And I've also used it on much larger files, like, or folders with like 60,000 images, and it'll compress it down to like, MP4 using FFmpeg. So I think it's all very basic stuff. But what I would notice is that like as it searches through all these folders like recursively, sometimes there's certain folders where the command prompt would just say this folder is corrupted and can't be accessed. but I could access it in the Windows like file explorer like normal. So I was like, this can't be corrupted because I can see it right here. And in other instances, well, let me think. That's basically the issue of the start of the issue is like I would be I think what happened was like, okay, actually this is a good folder to give an example because I ran compress.py on this folder and it would like recursively search through all the child folder subfolders. And when it got to Pyram images, which is for Pyraminx, one of the folders, it worked correctly. So this folder used to have like 15,000 images and now has a single video file that I can double click and like now like this video will just play. Like this is the kind of video that uh like that image sequence is supposed to create. You know, pretty logical stuff going on right here. So it worked. And actually, I can just show you right now, like an image sequence folder, like 5 by 5 images. If you look at the file size, it's about 5 GB. I don't know if you can see that, like 5.04 GB, and contains 13,000 files. But once you do the compression thing, like this guy, then now we have 30 megabytes. So we're talking about like a 100 times decrease in file size and one file contained because of all the interframe compression. So obviously, for both my own sake of like copying files quickly and also Backblaze's sake to be able to back up my computer, it makes a lot of sense to do this compression. And I know MP4 is not a lossless compression algorithm. Like it's not going to be like pixel perfect, but like the amount of information that an MP4 preserves is so high quality that I just don't care. And I think the ease of use and the ease of the backup makes it worth it. Like I don't care that I'm losing like small amounts of quality on the edges of borders or whatever, because you know it's gonna be compressed when it gets uploaded to YouTube anyway. So okay, long story short, I was running compress.py, my script, on this folder, and it worked on Pyraminx images just fine. And then I think it got to square one images. Oh, it's gone. And I think it said like, oh, this folder is corrupted, so it crashed. But then I would go to File Explorer and double click, and the images would still be there. So I'm like, hold on, someone's lying here. Something's not making a mistake. Someone's making a mistake. And I know that like if either side, command prompt or file explorer, says it's corrupted, something has gone wrong. Uh, but anyway, what I did was I searched online kind of how to fix this. And I don't remember, like there's some like dialogue box that I Googled like the text to, and I stumbled upon this video, how to fix DISM error on, you know, whatever. And like I followed it because I guess like I figured like okay, there's some scan. Like I know that like I've had errors on my SSD before, and if I plug it into my laptop, then my laptop will go bing. This drive has like some issues. Click here to scan and repair it, and I'll click scan and repair, and it'll just repair it, and then it'll say like this is fixed now. So I looked at this, and what this guy recommended was like the first thing to do is to type this command here, which is chkdsk slash offline scan and fix, and then hit enter. And then on his computer, what happens if you hit enter is that it prompts you to answer yes or no. And if you say yes, it'll run the scan the next time the computer restarts. Well, when I ran it, somehow it didn't wait for the restart, it just ran immediately. And well, on his computer worked seemed to work just fine, but on my computer, I only got one photo of what was happening, um, because I guess it happened quickly and like I just didn't have that much time. But if you look on my phone, I took an image. Wait, okay, I took an image. Like within a few seconds, I noticed it was starting to output this text that said, "Oh, you can't really see it." Well, it said like deleting index entry click.wave, deleting index entry college thing, deleting index entry country deciles.xls. And these are all files I remember creating, you know, 10 plus years ago because when I was applying for college in 2014, I had a folder called college thing. So I don't know if you can read that, but on the left it says, yeah, actually I can zoom in. Like on the left it says deleting index so and so, and like these are all in alphabetical order. So I was kind of panicking because yeah, these are old files. They're on my 2011 to 17 hard drive because I was like, okay, it says deleting index entry, but maybe that just means like there's multiple pointers to these files and it's just removing one of the extraneous ones. But then I checked the actual folder and it's actually missing. And you can tell that because okay, within archivy archive is my SSD, which has 8 TB, so it won't ever fill up. I have these like, oh, you can't see this. I have these grand folders. So every 5 years or so, I will switch computers just because like my old one gets slow, and then you know, that will give me like a whole new kind of set of files to back up. So, for many, many years, these backups were just kind of all over the place in different hard drives plugged in different places. And so recently I tried to coalesce them all in one place because I was like, this is getting confusing. So you can see that archive contains these like giant folders, which is like Carry Desktop 2005 to 11. That's like my childhood. Carry Desktop 2011 to 17. Those are like my teenage years. Carry Desktop 2017 to 2020. Those are my college years. Like whatever, whatever. Then Carry iPhone, Carry Surface. Surface is another laptop I had. Carry Ubuntu. That was another partition I had, so on and so forth. Um, so when I ran like this, what is it? Check disk. What does this guy recommend? Check disk offline scan and fix. It like tried to do it on archive the entire Z drive, which kind of worries me because it really affected this 2011 to 17 folder. But like now I don't know if it affected all of them because, I haven't checked them all. But if I go to the 2011 to 17 folder and then you go into documents, this is where like it's most obvious something wrong happened. Because I know this folder very well because well, I lived here for like 6 years, but the subfolders only go from P down to W. Like it's in alphabetical order. You would expect a whole bunch of folders before P. And like the very first one is processing three. And I remember the first folder says 1997 to 2014 homework because like there was a time when like I put all my recent homework in one folder and then all my old homework in another folder. And so that folder 1997 to 2014 homework got placed at the very top alphabetically and was there for years and years. So that just disappeared and I just don't know where it is. And okay, I have a few thoughts about this. Thing one is I was searching a lot online more like, can this check disk offline scan and fix like just delete files or were they deleted to begin with, right? Like if the files were just corrupted for some other reason, maybe this program wasn't deleting files but merely like cleaning up trash that was already trashed. And I found this Reddit post um on the data recovery subreddit which asks kind of a similar thing. Scan and fix deleted some files. And the top reply says running checkdisk on any device you uh is okay. This says running checkdisk is the worst thing you can do. Checkdisk does not care about your data. Checkdisk cares about system integrity. Stop using the drive and image immediately or and clone all the files so that you don't lose them. Like that's the gist of it. And I kind of think to myself like that's helpful to know, but I also wish I kind of knew that like an hour ago before all of this happened. Um, and I'm very grateful that Backblaze still exists because as soon as this happened, I went to Backblaze and I clicked like download these files again. But it's gonna take like a few more days to like get the new set of files. And then there's also a whole bunch of like file organization I did on this most recent folder that I'm gonna have to redo again, and that could take me a while to figure it out. Um, so the other thing I was going to say is that the script I wrote, and actually I could just show it to you now. So compress.py is a Python script. And let me just open it. Uh, I actually managed to run this on like I would say probably around 100 image sequences, and it successfully compressed them all. Um, and it compressed some of them on okay, you remember the grand folders I was talking about within archive. It ran it successfully on like almost all the image sequences in Carry Desktop 2005 to 2011, which like I don't know how much that reduced it by, but like maybe the file count went down from like a million to half a million, which is really good. um but the thing I was going to point out is that I ran Compressy on 2011 to 17, and I had to look through all these image sequences to see like are they actually sequences that make sense to be compressed? Because if it's like a machine learning data set, you would not want that to be turned into an MP4 because it's not a video. But most of my image sequences are videos. Anyway, the point is that a lot of my processing image sequences, but not all, go into the folder called processing, which would go just above this one here, processing three. Like that was definitely like the biggest folder in the entire documents. So it's very likely that whatever caused the corruption was like my own code getting stuck on like a folder within processing and that like somehow corrupted everything up until that point or I don't know because that would explain why there's a cutoff right at processing. um, but the reason I want to show you my code is because I don't think I'm doing anything nefarious. Like you might say, like, oh, well, Carrie goes again, like being like trying to meddle with the Windows file system, and like that probably caused the corruption. But I feel like everything I did is like totally in the bounds of like legality. So, my code checks to see could this be an image sequence, blah, blah, blah. Like that obviously can't cause corruption because I'm just checking. But then like here's where it creates an MP4. And the way it creates an MP4 is just by calling ffmpeg. So, if ffmpeg plays by the rules, then this should play by the rules too. And then there's also the search function that kind of searches recursively through child folders and tries to like, see what yeah, basically check through all subfolders. And then like the most dangerous part is the one that deletes files. Like it deletes the images once it's done, but where does that happen? Oh, it happens here, I guess. Oh no, it happened. I don't know. Wait, maybe I should figure this out. Proceeding, text. Uh, well, I mean, the thing is, like, I would just use os.delete. Oh, you can't see this, but I'm doing Control F os.delete. Like, oh, os.r. Here it is, os.remove. Like if I'm using os.remove and Python's os functions play by the rules as well, then like I don't think I could corrupt files. I could accidentally delete files I shouldn't delete or like, I didn't want to delete, but it should never cause a case where like there was a corruption to the point where if I run chkdsk, then it deletes like 90% of the files on that hard drive. Um, so it's like what happens here is like if okay, basically what's saying here, and I do need to comment on code better, but I didn't plan for this to be seen by the public. If is rendered basically is asking if the MP4 file is already rendered. Now I don't need the images. I don't need the PNGs anymore. So we're going to say, okay, well, BC is button choice. If I chose 0, that meant that like I actually didn't want the PNGs to be deleted because there is a chance for the user to choose don't delete the PNGs. But then if BC is 1, that means I did choose the images to be deleted. So it checks the current key, which is like the entry within the file dictionary that like, we're currently going at, and it goes through all the like subfolder, like it goes through all the files within the image sequence, which is in this dicty key dictionary, and then just deletes them, and it tallies up how many's been deleted. And like, I know this sounds very dangerous, but I really want to like clarify that for like hours and hours, I was running this on well, like image sequences that had like tens of thousands of images, compressing them into MP4s, and it was like very happily deleting them, and I was happily saving space on my hard drive. So I really didn't think anything was amiss. And then this happened. The issue only happened once I ran check this, but like maybe it was like an accruing issue over time. I just really don't know. Uh, so that's one thing I wanted to say. One other aspect to this whole issue that I did want to bring up is the process of creating image sequences in general. So here's a few things I'll say. Processing, I I think I kind of push processing beyond its intended limits for certain things. Like when it comes to like this video, maybe you could see this being made by processing, but in Yoyle City, which is an episode I made in 2013, it's like very extravagant and you know it's in 3D and all that. Like Panther City, this is all made in processing, and I feel like that was kind of overkill for what processing was made for. Okay, so from 2011, I learned about processing July 2011 until about August 2020. Whenever I wanted to create a video with processing, I would just have every image, every frame rendered to an image file and named like image 1, image 2, image 3. And then I released a video where I talked about Elemental 3 and my like visualization on how elements were added to the game by users. And I lamented about how I thought it was so inconvenient how to create thousands of images. Um, and it's a very rambly video, but somewhere in the comments, I think YoyleSpartan well, I can't find the exact comment, but it's in here somewhere. YoyleSpartan commented on my video saying something like, "Oh, you don't have to render like thousands and thousands of images, Carrie. You can just use this thing called Hamoid's Video Exporter, which is a plugin, I think, into processing that allows you to render a video directly from processing." And that like saved my life. I feel like, well, not literally, but like every video project from processing after that, I just used Hamoi's video exporter, and it was just so much more clean and lightweight because after I would create a video, I just have one file to deal with, not thousands. And I feel like I just wish I knew about Hamoi's video exporter like earlier. Like I don't know when it was created, but like maybe 2012 would have been nice because I started using processing in 2011. Just the thought that 9 years of my life, from age 14 to 23, went by and I didn't know about this and I had to struggle through this issue, kind of like disappoints me. Um, but then the other thing I was going to say is that my perspective on what a file is has changed because nowadays I really think that a file, especially when it comes to like making videos, should be like a core element of what a human would associate with like production. So I guess what I mean is like a human could easily see how a wave file represents a core element of audio. Like maybe this is the wave file of Carrie saying the word hello. Or maybe it's an image file of an arrow because I want to use the arrow in a video. So the reason why I say the word core for this is that I think with an image sequence, you have like thousands of images that all represent a frame of a video. But like as a human using these files to edit together a video, I would not consider each of these images to be a core element in and of themselves. Together, they make the core of the video. So, like, if I have thousands of images and there's no reason I would ever like use like image number 1337 out of the pile, then they should be collapsed into some other file type. Like if I want lossless compression, maybe like an AVI or even simpler just zipping it into a zip file would be better. Or like if I am okay with compression, which 99% of the time I am, it should be an MP4 because when I use Backblaze now to back it all up, and Backblaze is like we have identified 13,000 files. It should be like 13,000 core things that I carry can understand what they are. It shouldn't just be like 13,000 of the same exact image over and over and over and over again. Um, and knowing that now, it does make me think that like I should have realized from the beginning that like this wasn't going to be an efficient way to store files on my computer because there is another like video like series that I did, Amazing Memory Season 3, where like there is a timer in the corner. Like see this timer is counting up the number of minutes and seconds that have passed, and simultaneously it's also showing a timeline or a leaderboard of the like fastest marbles to finish the race, right? So this is also a frame sequence that's at 60 frames per second, and this is like a 5 minute episode, but they're also like 10-minute episodes. Here's an 11-minute one. So if you hit 11 minutes, that's going to be like almost 40,000 images. And I just had those sitting on my hard drive for like years and years, and I didn't even know because, or I knew when I first made the video, but I quickly forgot because life moves on. So just the thought that like across multiple legs, I had over 300,000 files just depicting the timer of one video series. Like it's no duh. Backblaze was struggling to like back up my entire computer. Obviously that's going to be difficult. And I do also notice that on the Backblaze like returns that come back to me, um, there should be like ideally it should have every one of your files. It's supposed to be like an exact like backup, right? But I do notice that in those folders that are supposed to have tens of thousands of images, sometimes not every image is there. Like it'll miss a few or it'll skip a few. And I've noticed that on certain image sequences where like there will be a lot of movement and then it's still, and then a lot of movements and then it's still. The images where it's just still tend to disappear for some reason. So I feel like what Backblaze might be doing, and maybe this is too advanced and this is a conspiracy, is maybe like if it detects that this image is like extremely similar to a lot of other files it's saved, or maybe it's exactly the same, I'm not quite sure, then it just won't back it up. Or it'll like lower the priority on it so that like it'll back up like all the images that like are unique first, and then it'll move on to other stuff, and then it'll come back to then like if it's done with those other things, then it'll come back and do the repetitive images later. But the issue is like Backblaze doesn't have infinite time or infinite internet access. So because like my backup, my like hard drive has 3 million files, you know, it can think, oh, I'll come back to back up these repetitive images later, but then later never comes because it's so busy with all these other files that like it just never gets back to it. So like having image sequences instead of videos is not just inconvenient. It literally means the backups cannot back up everything. And it's just kind of obvious kind of how all these problems coalesce and like combine now. Um, so now I'm just waiting for Backblaze to like return the file again, like the hard drive, not hard drive, but like the backup of the hard drive again to me. But I just find it like astonishing that, you know, I can just have a folder that looks like it has all my files for like one at 1 second, they're all there. And then I run this chkdsk command and now most of them are gone. It feels like way too easy to lose them. And like I know everyone always says that. They say that's why you should always have three backups. Like files are by their nature like very easy to delete, and um, that's why you should have multiple. And that's why I do with the Backblaze thing. But like Backblaze, I think has been kind of confused as to what I've been doing lately because of all this like file shuffling. Like I bought like three new SSDs because I was getting tired of like having to store files on old hard drives that like, have to be connected to power, and then like you hear them like buzz up slowly as like, their little like disc, or what do you call it, the little reader hand thing has to like start turning really fast. It just feels like very inefficient. So I bought all these SSDs, and like the new drives obviously have different letters than the old drives. So like Backblaze is like, what are all these new files? I don't have time to back them all up. Uh, so that's like kind of part of the issue. So I guess like this video is going on quite long now. It's almost half an hour, but I want to sort of sum it up by sort of asking, do you think it is worth it for me to run this compress.py script on my hard drive? Because on the pro side, it's everything I've already explained, right? Like I think I can lower this 3.7 million file count, which again used to be 4.9 million before I started running this code. It can lower it. I think it can lower it probably all the way down to under 1 million because, well, if you look at the actual files that are like taking up space, 1.8, 1.98 million of the files on my computer are PNGs, and they're image sequences. So this number will shrink by a factor of around, well, several thousand, because like some image sequences are 20,000 images long. Some of them are just like 500 long. Like there's a big range. Um, and then the second most common file type is JPEG, which is at 460,000, which could also be image sequences, to be honest, because you can see they're all like clustering. Well, there's a big one that I deleted because it was just like a video in image form for like an old school project that required an image data set for machine learning. Um, and then, well, I have a lot of MIDIs, but I can just delete these because these are like ones I download from the internet for machine learning projects. But yeah, the gist of it is like, okay, on the pro side of running this code on my hard drive is like, well, not it's an SSD, whatever, on my drive, is that like I could theoretically lower the number of files from like 4 million to 1 million or lower even. And that would make it much, much easier for Backblaze and anyone really to keep track of my files, uh, for all the reasons I explained earlier. And like that could be the saving grace of what makes my files recoverable if everything crashes down the road or my house burns down. Like if my house burns down tomorrow and I only have like a half baked backup because Backblaze didn't have time, then like I lose most of my files. So like this isn't just an inconvenience thing. This is like actually serious. But then on the con side, by running this compressed script, if any part of the script like isn't quite right and is causing files to get corrupted, then like it could be worse than net neutral. Like it could be the case that like running this code actually causes my files to be deleted, like what kind of just happened now. Um, and I do understand both sides. Part of me feels like what I could just be doing is, when I get that backup from Backblaze again, just take all those files, maybe put them on Backblaze's B2 storage also, and then just never touch it again because I don't. I feel like to make modern YouTube videos, I don't need all my old files. Like all of them are from old videos that I don't really need to touch ever again. Um, but they're just there because like I don't like the thought of like them deleting or like being burned in a fire. It's like, I want history to be preserved and all that. Like if I spent weeks working on a video, I want the materials for that video to still be there, even if I made a video back in 2015 and now it's 9 years later. Um, so I think from that perspective, it's like I'm not short on space, right? I have like three 8 terabyte SSDs because I just was just like I'm tired of like not having enough drives. And this these files only add up to 2.1 terabytes. So I'm not short on space, but what I am short on is like time and like processing power to like process these 3 million files. So like if I do get these backed up and then like on B2 storage and then just like set it and forget it and never think about it again. Maybe it doesn't matter that there's these huge swaths of PNG image sequences, but I also feel like, I spent a couple days writing this code and I'm proud of how it works. And I really do think it works correctly when done right. But like, I can't help but wonder what was it that caused a folder to get corrupted from the command prompts perspective. And I like, all I know is that I will never run chkdsk again. Like, I don't know. I just feel like this comment on Reddit is the only time I've ever seen someone say like you should never use chkdsk, and like I believe them, but I just feel like why didn't the public warn me about this earlier? Like, I'm seeing more. I mean, if you Google whatever you want, something will show up because it's just there's so much on the internet. So like, I don't like. I mean, I see more people saying like, oh, chkdsk, deleted my corrupt files. And so I'm like, oh, more people believe this, but like, you know, it could be like selection bias because I'm hunting this out. And this was back in 2012 too, so I don't know. Do not use the computer for anything other than these corrective measures. I don't know. Um, well, I think I'm getting a little loopy and rambly. But I also one last thing I'm thinking is if I end up in a situation again where I notice that like the command prompt says this folder is corrupted and you can't access it, and that's why why it's gonna crash, but I can still access it in File Explorer. That is a weird conundrum to be in because I literally am able to like open these files from File Explorer. So I could theoretically copy them somewhere else. And then if the first drive just burns and dies, I still have the files. So like obviously I shouldn't run chkdsk, but there must be something I can do to like prevent the total destruction of everything. And I don't know, I just like I know I already said this, but I really did run compress.py on like I want to say over 100 image sequences and it worked just fine. And I know that's not how code works. All it takes is one edge case to mess it all up. But I really don't think the issue is in this code here. And by the way, I don't know if I did scroll through it all, but let me just scroll through it all in case anyone wants to read it all. So here's lines 1 through 34. Here's 34 through 67. Here's 66 through 99. This is not the most of it. 99 through 130. 130 to whatever, 159, 159 to 186, 186 to 219, and then oh, I'm still not at the bottom. Wow, this okay. I used Pygame for stuff, and you might be like, that's so silly. Why would you use like a gaming library to make a file like manager thing? Well, it's because like I like how easy it is to make a user interface because I did need to ask the user like is this an image? I'm gonna like I want like it needs to ask the user. Here's an image sequence that I currently found. Is it actually one that needs to be an MP4 or is it like a bunch of sprites for a video game? And then like you wouldn't want to compress a data pack of sprites. Like that just wouldn't make sense. So like that's why I used Pygame and it actually like it worked pretty well. I was gonna run it just now to show you, but now I'm worried that like if I do run it, it'll cause more corruption, especially in the state my computer is in right now. So yeah, I think that's kind of the conundrum I have to deal with. I was feeling quite frantic maybe like half an hour ago. Um, but like I think knowing that the like Backblaze backup is being shipped here and it's the same one that I received. So okay, this is a backup that I asked from Backblaze on March 26th, so about a month ago, and I got it, and I was like, "Yay, these files are still here." And then like I did all these things, and I got busy with like writing a BFJ episode and like other go to the clubs, all these other things. But like, uh, I did this project. I started to run it on those files, and they got corrupted. But then like I'm asking for the same backup from Backblaze, so I feel like there's almost no risk. Like as long as Backblaze doesn't like mess up on their side, I should be getting exactly the same files back. But I just feel like like a whole month of progress is lost if I'm back at where I was on March 26th. So yeah, I mean, here's the last perspective I want to talk about this. I know I said last before, but this is like last, or I don't know if it is, whatever. Um, I feel like I want to spend most of my time making YouTube videos, and I haven't made many videos recently about computer science, which I'm really sad about because I think that is something I spent 4 years of my life learning in college, and a lot of my time is kind of absorbed doing things running BFDI or managing Jack and Jellyfy, and a lot of it's also dealing with these things like file backup stuff. And I feel like I've spent weeks just trying to kind of wrangle this mega file folder thing of like all the files I've ever worked on ever since I was 8 years old. And I just feel like this isn't the most efficient use of my time. Like, I feel like, if I had a whole bunch of, I don't want to say helpers, but like people who are kind of like on my team to help manage these things better because like maybe they know more about file storage than I do, then like I could have them, maybe I could just like alert an assistant like, hey, I want every image sequence in this whole file set to be turned into an MP4. Can you do that for me? With some exceptions. They could be like, all right, I'll spend the next 2 weeks of my life writing that code and like running it, and then if I run into an error, I will alert Carrie, but only in that instance, and like then Carrie, can just work on the videos, and then I can make videos which will make my like audience happy, but also make me feel more fulfilled because I'll be actually making progress. I just feel like that would be a better situation, but of course I would need to like hire those people and like pay those people. Um, and maybe I'm just not that comfortable with like leading a big team because I just don't think I was like trained to do that, or like that's not my personality. So I guess constantly, like even after doing YouTube for like 15 plus years, I still find myself being the one to have to get my hands dirty into the nitty gritty of these issues that I feel like aren't central to the process of making videos, which I feel like I've discovered that like, well, I don't know. I just feel like that's what I feel like I'm good at. Like I've spent years getting good at making videos, but I haven't spent years getting good at like doing file storage management. So I just feel like I'm wasting my time in a sense by dealing with all these issues and not having other people fix them. But I just don't know who to ask. So I figured that's why I should ask you. But I think that kind of like ends this video full circle. Um, yeah. I was gonna make a scripted video on this issue and about me. Well, it was gonna be like on my resolution of it. Like the video is gonna be titled like I had 4.9 million files on my hard drive, but I've fixed it now, and let me take you through my journey of how I fixed it. But it looks like I haven't fixed it, and I do not want to wait like another like 2 3 days editing a video when something like really bad just happened, and like I want to just like be like, here's what happened. Open, quick, clear communication I think is important. And of course, nobody has to watch this video. This is more just for me to like document my issues, but also if anyone is interested enough to listen to this whole thing, then yay. Okay, well, this ramble has been going on for long enough, so thank you for watching. Feel free to comment if you have any insights, and uh, Yeah, that's basically it. It's currently 3:26 a.m. I don't normally stay up this late. I used to, but I like going to bed earlier now. Like, 1 a.m. is like better. But well, I was just doing a lot of file stuff and then this happened and I just felt like I wanted to talk about it before I went to bed. So yeah, thank you for watching this ramble. I will probably upload this to LazyKH and I'll see you all later. I really do appreciate anyone who's sat through this long because I just think I am being so nonsensical right now. So like really, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, like just thank you. I know it's like it sounds so cliche to say that, but like I really want to get back into the game of making computer science videos, and I just don't know if there's any CS fans that still follow me. I feel like it's been like 7 years since I've really had. Okay, yeah, no, I'm sure that like some people still remember. Like people don't forget that easily, and I can always get back into it. And I also feel like my Rubik's chess videos, which came out just this month, are some of my favorite projects I've ever done. So yeah, I think I can still call myself a computer science YouTuber. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching to the end. I will see you all later. Bye.